What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dream a Little, the podcast that's all about helping you feel confident about your ABGL side. I'm your host, Lo. Thank you so much for listening. Today, we are continuing our episode with Drew and diving more into his relationship and dynamic with his wife. If you missed part 1, I highly recommend going back to episode number 168 because his story is just mind-blowing. As always, if you want to reach out to Drew and his wife, you can find their social media info at thelittlelounge.com/169. That's thelittlelounge.com/169. It's where you'll also find a preview for my latest Nurturing Mommy roleplay. I release a new episode every single Monday. With all that being said, I'm not going to make you wait any longer. Let's just get back into it. Okay, where did you start out? What did you start out with?
So it almost sounds like a complete lie. So because it's one of, again, like when I say I couldn't dream this girl up, I sat there many of nights going like, oh my God, if I could have that type of relationship, what it would be like, and so on and so forth. So, and this will probably explain a lot of the type of person she is. So we'll say she went on vacation on Sunday. I had that conversation on Monday. By Tuesday night, we were ordering sex toys over the internet to have them shipped to the house by the time she was going to get home.
She was excited.
I went out to the store. I got pull-ups for both of us, oddly enough. I was like, all right, well, I'll grab 2 packs. God forbid you go through one. And I'm like, just in case. All week we kind of just texted back, can't wait for you to get here, blah, blah, blah. Like, are you going to be daddy's little girl? Yes, daddy. So it's like to see that, it's like, wow, she is absolutely. And again, I really only knew her for a couple of weeks at this time.
Wow.
Yeah. And I only moved in a week before this. So it was, yeah. So everything came in on that Thursday and I had everything laid out for her for when she came home. Because oddly enough, I had to go to work. I went to work. She came home, saw everything laid out. I came home to her laying on my bed wearing a diaper.
Stop.
So, yeah. Yep. So it worked out pretty well. So, yeah, that if I'd say open-minded. Yep. Qualifies as a yes.
Absolutely. That's the dream girl right there. Okay.
Really, yep,
so she's like wearing it and you walk in and she's enjoying it. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Let's just say things only lasted like 3 more minutes. There was later after when it wasn't, but it was so like we just fell into each other and that was it. There was no holding back. There was no words. It was just, even during the day, she wrote for daddy right on her thigh and took a picture of it with the diaper on. So it was just like all day long. It was just, actually all week because I haven't seen her. And then to come home. So needless to say, like I said, it lasted about 3 minutes, but later was fantastic.
So what about transitioning to more like ABDL diapers? Was that a challenge at all, or was she also open-minded to that?
Extremely open-minded. Again, I feel like when I was younger and I was getting into it, there wasn't as much out there as there is today. So for her to kind of be like, I don't know, kid learns how to ride a bike and you send them to the store, like, here, you can pick out whatever one you want. She learned how to use it. Now I was letting her pick whichever one she wanted. So she was very much so like, oh yeah, I like these ones. I like these ones. So picks out onesies. She loves, finding different onesies. And I'll lay them out for her and she'll put them on for me. And she definitely enjoys it.
Okay. Well, what about when it comes to like using the diaper?
All day long. Didn't even bat an eyelash at it.
Stop! Are you serious?
Yep. I swear to you, that's what I mean. I feel like I'm lying to you. It's almost like so it feels like it's too good to be true still, even 3 years later. But yes, actually that Friday that's why it was only 3 minutes.
It all clicks now. It's all making sense now.
Yep. So right out of the gate it was like that. So I've now leaned more towards being a little, because it sounds terrible, but she actually makes me feel loved. Like my last marriage, I didn't feel that. With her, it's that crazy feeling. So I feel like it allows me to get little, if that makes sense.
It's vulnerable.
Exactly. Which she absolutely makes me feel that way. So because that's there, that allows me to unwind a little, but I'm still having that hard transition because of that old marriage, because how I was told, like, hey, it's not okay, like, oh, it's okay if she's a little, but you can't be the little. That's not something. So I'm still kind of trying to work through that. She is absolutely amazing about it. If I want anything, she's right there. But sometimes I'm struggling like, oh, I want to be little today, but I don't really be like, hey, can you diaper me? If I do, she'd absolutely do it. She wouldn't even bat an eyelash. She'd even smack me on the butt on the way out the door. But I don't always have that confidence to be like, hey, and I think it's because I had it at one point in my old marriage, at least with that. And it was kind of like, look what happened with that. I'm not rushing it, I guess, is more of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So the little side, I'm little by little, I'm getting there. But we're not trying to rush. I'm not trying to do everything on the ABDL list in the first year that we're together. I'd like to spread it out. I'm in no rush to do anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you got to keep it fresh and exciting anyways, and introducing it slowly allows you to do that. But it sounds like, you feel really safe around her, but even despite that, you've been kind of hurt or kind of rejected in a way in the past. And so letting that guard down is hard for you.
It's hard because I'm very much so a person where I do not enjoy asking others for stuff, anything, for help, I moved out of my house when I was 16, never looked back, never asked for a handout. I've always worked. If I need something, I just take care of it. So to ask somebody else, and especially have it be something that's like that, I think that's where my struggle comes from. I'm just not that type of person. So she allows me to be in every way possible. She encourages me to be. But I have a hard time just being like, hey, like I want to be little. And she'll be like, all right. But I'm never like, hey, all right, well, can you diaper me? Or, it's one of those, I need to be more forward about it.
Right.
But I'm so happy with everything. I don't feel like it's that, I don't know.
That seems like it kind of is more of a communication thing, and that you can, work on. Maybe you have like a code word or something,
exactly.
to do that.
I think that's what it's more of it's the awkwardness of sitting there. And we talk about it all the time. That's a great thing. Like my job, I have long drives in between. So, and I actually worked for a cable company for 13 years. And I used to keep her in my ear every day, all day. So if I have the opportunity to do that now, I still do the same thing. We'll literally talk from the time I leave the house to the second I pull in the driveway, hang up, and then see each other. If you were to look at my Verizon bill, I'm sure it says like hundreds. I wish we could add up the time. We'd spend 12 hours on the phone because we don't want to be apart. Even when we're not together, I still need to hear her voice. If I don't, it's not okay, kind of thing. She kind of centers me.
She's your person.
Yeah, she's my person,
So it sounds like, just like a lot of other people in this community, your little side is like the total opposite of how you are in real life.
Exactly. Yes. But even that, like when I enjoy being little, like I like playing video games, and just kind of hanging out and relaxing. But I don't think I could ever kind of get into like, hey, like let's build. Oh, see, I say that, but I love Legos, so I could sit there and play Legos, But like, I don't know if I could sit under like a oh my gosh, I'm a terrible little. I don't even know what it's called.
What?
The mobile. I could sit under a mobile and get enjoyment. Like to me, that's kind of I completely understand why others, but I'd have to say like that's kind of where my personality would meet the end of being a little, is that kind of stuff. I guess I'd put myself more of a 2 or 3 year old.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. You want to be more active and doing things and talking and,
yes,
not totally fully regress. So even though you've had little time, it sounds like how often do you do this?
I go in spurts. Sometimes it's a couple of times a week, once a week. Sometimes it's, it goes by a month. It all depends what's going on with life, especially, recently with everything going on. It's just kind of stressful. So usually that little place is really great to go when stress is big in life, but sometimes that's not. I got 4 kids. that's not. That doesn't happen.
So I'm surprised even once a week. That sounds like a lot at this point now. I'm like, dang, how do you find the time?
and that's where like I've heard other people go, well, we don't consider being little unless we take like a whole day for it. To me, even if I get to wear for an hour, that's enough for me. You know what I mean? If just enough time to kind of bring me into that space. It doesn't need to be an all day. Of course, when it is an all day event, it's fantastic. But again, I have to be a real adult, and I don't always get it.
It's not always practical to be a baby all day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, if I could, I would. Yeah.
Trust me, I think we all would, or be like mommy all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of that, how did she adjust to, switching and taking the more caregiver role?
So that's part of the transition with me. I need to be more verbal on what I want, but I'm so shy in it. So that's where, like, we'll do the texting back and forth. Or actually, one of the things we're big on is we'll send pictures. So I always tell her, like, hey, if you want to be like tied up this week, send me a picture of somebody being tied up, or something along those lines.
Right.
So with that, I guess I try to send her different things like, oh, okay, well, different pictures, or or I'll refer to her as mommy, which, that kind of, well, now we know what we're talking about. So we're in that space. So with me having that hard time being like, hey, she does everything she can without trying to be too invasive. I'm trying to find the right way to say it. She doesn't want to make me uncomfortable with it. She doesn't want to go and do something and be like, oh, well, whether, because it's still new for both of us, it's new for her to be a mommy, and it's new for me to be a little. And it was new for us, for me to be a daddy and for her to be a little. But I feel like that transition was a lot easier than the other way around. I mean, I'm not a manly man, but I'm covered in tattoos. I'm a blue collar worker. So it's kind of hard to really fit that little.
Well, I feel like when you're the little and when you're the big, there's a difference because as a little, you're kind of receiving, right?
Yes.
You're like receiving everything, and the caregiver is the one giving and leading, and that's not easy,
Exactly.
Unless it's like obviously your kink. Like for me and you, since we're very into it, it's easy. But when you're not, you don't want to do something that potentially will turn your partner off or make you look dumb.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. All that for what you said. Yep, 2 seconds.
But that's the challenge too of getting into it and starting something new with someone who's not into ABDL is sometimes when you've never experienced or you haven't experienced a lot of time being little, it's like sometimes hard to nail down, like, what do I even want? Like, what would that even look like?
And that's where I need to communicate. I mean, we are great. It sounds like we're not, but we're
no. It sounds like you guys are.
We can talk about anything. Like, I'll tell that something's off, and I'll just be like, "Hey, you seem a little bitchy. Am I being an asshole? What's up?" Or something seems, maybe bitch is not the right word, but something like something just doesn't seem right. And no, everything's fine. All right, well, you're a freaking liar. Don't. And then I'll see her smirk and I'll be like, perfect, what's wrong? And we can always manage to get it out of each other. Sometimes we almost call each other out on it. Like, hey, what are you hiding? What are you pissy about? Or what are you sad about? Or what's bothering you? I'm here. Why aren't you talking to me right now? So we definitely have that. But again, I think it comes more of she very much so wants to, but I just need to be more verbal on what I want. But I also need to figure out exactly what I want as a little.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And that's something that you guys can evolve over time.
And that's why I have zero fear that, because before it was, oh, nope, I'm not in, previous marriage, I'm not into this. This is weird, and it's like, oh, okay, so now I have to bottle that all away and there's no future in that. And I tried over the years, little by little, but with this, it's kind of like, well, it's so new and it's so fresh, and I know it will be there, but I'm in no rush to put it there because where we are right now is fantastic. So as it gets there, it will get there.
And it's probably so liberating just to be able to be seen in a diaper. I mean, that's like a big step compared to your previous marriage, right?
It is. I still have a hard time with it.
You do?
The other night was one of the first times in a while for me, just because, again, everything's just been kind of crazy. But it was kind of, do a little thing where I grab it out of the closet by the side of the bed and then kind of scoot over to the bed and, push myself up as close to the bed so she can't see anything, and I'll pull my shorts down. And then she'll just kind of look at me and she'll be like, give it to me, get up on the bed. I'm like, yes. So yeah, so even but it's honestly, it's liberating to be able to talk about it.
Right.
Like, even just to, I'm sure you're just like me. You're in a store and you hear a diaper and immediately your head dips down like, oh my God, what's going on? And it's just somebody having a normal conversation.
They're like, you're like, they know. They totally know.
Yep. Oh my God, they're watching.
I'm like, can we not say that word in a conversation that's not about kink? Like, it's so creepy, you guys. Stop it.
Or it's like, you swear to God, you go to Thanksgiving, you're sitting there all watching TV, and it's like the Huggies commercial comes on, and then the Depends commercials come on. It's like, oh my God.
You're like,
yes.
You're like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. So to even say things like, are you going to be wet for daddy later so I can change you? It's like, just to be able to say stuff like that, or even like, hey, if I'm wet later, mommy, will you change? Stuff like that. It's just, like you said, liberating to be able just to say it out loud, even if it didn't happen, just to say it out loud and for somebody not to look at you and be like, what? that part in its own is worth it.
Absolutely. So going back, you mentioned that you told her pretty early on, you had known each other longer, but you were together for only a couple weeks at the time, you said?
Yeah, so when I told her, I was living with her for only a week, and I probably knew her for 2 months. So okay. I'll say I knew her for about 2 months before I moved in with her, swinging with her for those beginning.
Since I'm going to assume that most people listening aren't going to meet their person doing that, what advice or for timing? I mean, would you give someone who started meeting someone the old-fashioned way?
So yeah, without not I bumped into your car. No, I can't really explain to my stepkids like, hey, I grabbed your mother by the throat, slammed her up against the wall, and shoved my finger. That's not how that conversation.
Not a story for the grandkids. Definitely not.
Not even
not for the kids. Yeah.
My big thing, honestly, was again, it was being honest with myself, but being honest with her. She, like I said, I do have stepkids, so she had children. So it was very important to me. And this was actually the reason why I waited till that week that she was gone, because I'm sure we all hear, people say, oh yeah, I'm into ABDL. And it turns into, pedophilia, unfortunately, or,
right.
It's immediately associated with poor things. So to me, it was kind of like, I'm going to give this to her on a Monday. That way her and her kids aren't here. So if she feels weird or unsafe, she's not in that situation. It gives me a week to get my crap out of there. And it's kind of better for everybody. So I did it, I guess, in a thought out, planned way. Okay. I kind of wanted to have all my bases covered. But I think timing is, I really think that's what it is. So I think when that time comes, you'll just know. It's that feeling that, okay, this person's ready to know. And if that person thinks it's weird, then honestly, I don't think that's the person for you.
Was the difference with your previous marriage that you did know, you just wish you didn't know? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of knew like she wouldn't be down with it, but you didn't want to like be honest about that?
And that's what it was, is, because she told me that experience, like, oh, that kid tried to make me wear, diapers to go to a concert. That's weird, right? That was always instilled in my brain. And it's like all of us know, it's a very hard thing to push down and disappear. So, I would still, binge purge, all that stuff. I'd purchase them, and she actually came across them like 4 years later. And she was like, whoa, what's all this? And she lost her mind. And it was, well, why weren't you honest? And she felt like I was lying to her. And I agreed with her. I can absolutely 100% understand that. Not a huge fan of the woman now, but I will absolutely respect that. That's crazy. You're putting actually, I don't even know if we were married then. I think we might have been engaged. And, you're putting your fiance's clothes away, and that's what you find. Yeah,
shocking.
That's like, yeah, it's like, what the? So with that, because of that first experience, I hid it that entire time, and then I got caught. So I just found better hiding spots, but continued to hide it. And I just felt like it had no end. So with that one, it was kind of, I guess that marriage was a learning experience, and I saw every place I failed there. And when I met the one I knew, which was the one, I couldn't do that to her. It was more of, it's not fair to you for me not to be honest with you.
And that's why I love that you're sharing this on the show, so that other people maybe don't have to go through 13 years with the wrong person.
Yeah, it was, like I said, I know I say, yeah, it was you I listened to, but it was really, I was just honest with myself. I got sick of it, I guess. I got sick of hiding who I was. And maybe it's part of the one thing we all don't want to be, an adult, but maybe that's part of, adulting. I finally just got to the point where I realized, you know what? I don't really care about anybody else. If this is what I want to be happy, and if nobody's okay with that, that's not my problem. That's their problem. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything wrong. And so if somebody can't accept me for me, I'm not in friggin' high school. I don't give a shit.
Right. I can walk away and I will be okay.
Yeah. And honestly, it took that. And again, I had that marriage for 13 years. I had a job for 13 years that because of that confidence, I literally walked in my boss's office and I'm like, I'm done.
Wow.
I had no job lined up, nothing planned. I would just had that confidence where I was sick of being mistreated, and it was time for me. I was doing it for me. So I guess I can say be a little selfish, but at the same time, think about the other person, because I saw it from both sides. I hid it from somebody and it hurt somebody. And like I said, I'm very bitter about that person, but I understand 100% where they were coming from. Right. But I showed it right away, and I was honest, and it came to be the best thing. I could die tomorrow and I'd die happy.
That's so amazing. I'm so happy for you guys. And it was so cool to hear your story. I mean, that's definitely a unique one. I have not heard about a couple meeting that way before, but it worked out for the best.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a story to share. It's an awkward one. Most people, tilt their heads and look at it, and but hey, if I can share that story and start sharing about an ABDL, that's okay. I'll share that story. That one's crazy enough. They don't need to know everything else.
Absolutely. Well, Drew, thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll be in touch with you.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Bye, Drew.
Bye.